So recently there was the passing of Leandro Lo that we were talking about. What do you think the impact, or what do you think was the, or just walk us through what you experienced just hearing the news and then talking to your friends in
Yeah.
Brazil and then the people here, like.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's a rough topic, a rough situation. I think for anybody who knew Leandro, like he was this beacon of positivity, like fun, man. He was such a cool guy, and I mean, I was in Pilsen, Czech Republic, like heading back here after a wedding, and I just start seeing like, rest in peace or like descansar en paz, like, and I'm like, no, this must be like something related to the Gordon Felipe match or something. Like people are trying to talk, and then some of my friends in Sao Paulo started writing messages and saying like what really happened. And dude, I was in shock. I mean, I was on the bus to the airport at the time. And I'm like, no way, no way.
It can't be real. That was
No,
my first.
yeah,
I'm like,
like
it's not April Fools. Why are they
yeah.
saying
I
this?
mean, what's so crazy about it is the first time I met Leandro, like it wasn't even jujitsu. It was, well, it was related to jujitsu, but one of our mutual friends, we were all out one night in Sao Paulo, and he's like, "Oh, Chris, man, I gotta introduce you to another friend of mine that does jujitsu." And he's like, "Hey, Leandro," and like from a couple meters away, Leandro does this athletic like spin movement like a ninja, and he pops up and he's like, "Yo, brother, what's up?" And like we start talking, and I mean, anytime you run into him, like especially outside the mat, I mean, on the mat, it's fun, but outside the mat, you just see like this person who's just really, really embodying just like life, like just loving life, like really, really fun guy, always like friendly, always like, yeah, let's party, let's get another drink, stuff. And so when I started seeing the video or the images or hearing the real story of what happened, I mean, that made it even more real because I've been in places like the event that occurred, because it wasn't just like a nightclub. A lot of the reports are saying like, oh, it's this nightclub and there's a shooting.
Yeah, I'm
No, it was
picturing like an American like nightclub where you're off to the side, you got the velvet rope,
yeah,
with your drinks. That's what I was picturing until you kind of
No,
told me.
exactly. Like it's so crazy because they had it at basically like the sports club, kind of like this event space. And the band's here and you've got the dance floor, and you go and you order like a bucket of drinks with your friends, and they bring out like this foldable circular table and put it out there, and then you've got the drinks on the table and you're standing and you're dancing. So it's a really cool vibe because you're able to be on the dance floor and interact but have drinks at the same time. And so as I'm reading what occurred, I'm just picturing like what it was like to probably be in that environment. We may never know, what actually really occurred, other than those who were there. But when I think about the dynamics of it, like you've got a lot of people dancing, and whatever was said beforehand by the shooter, it caused him to grab a drink from that table. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's why, we shouldn't choose to fight, or we should really avoid it. But it's hard, one, for us to judge, not being in that situation, but two, I've been in situations similar to that where you've got people bumping into you, or like somebody spills a drink, and you and your boys, like you're gonna kind of be protective, and you aren't gonna let someone just kind of mess with you that way. So I mean, in that heat of the moment, like whatever happened. But regardless, Leandro Lo should be alive today. Like that regardless of what happened. I mean, the fact that he was basically executed. It's not like, he was just killed by a stray bullet or something. Like this was a malicious attack where the guy's like shooting, at his forehead. So you start looking at kind of the impact of that, and the messages that have come out where people are like, oh, ACAB, or like, regardless of whether or not this guy was a cop, it shouldn't have occurred.
Yeah.
Now, does him being an off-duty cop possibly play a role? Maybe. I don't know. I can't really speak on that. But when you look on the fact that he had the weapon, that may have impacted his ability to get a weapon inside compared to other
because he was
people.
off duty. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I think there's a lot going on. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of sadness. There's a lot of grief. We can't change the past. We have to deal with it now. And so when you look at the legacy that he left, he's inspired so many people. But there's a generation of people. We think about people who've started jiu-jitsu within the past couple of years who didn't see even that rise to greatness or have that opportunity to interact. And so it's truly a loss for jiu-jitsu. It's also a tragedy given the lack of empathy that people are having. So the elephant in the room is Flow Grappling and the Who's Number One match that occurred. And you have all these people who are saying, oh, you fight through it, you go through it, you handle your emotions, and you push through and fight. And so, they're giving Felipe Pena a hard time. And I was reflecting on, comments, oh, my grandfather died, my father died, I was able to push through things and stuff. And, it made me think about my time in the military and then my time just as a human. When my grandfather died, my grandfather passed away exactly 1 month after his 90th birthday. And I felt good, actually. Like, it was like, this feeling of peace because he had said he was ready to go. And I had had this amazing life and great relationship with my grandfather. And so it was like truly closing the loop and allowing him to pass on. But then I have friends who have, been killed in Afghanistan or had legs blown off or arms, different casualties. And like one of my best friends from West Point was blown up by an IED.
Oh, wow.
June 27th, 2012. My birthday is June 29th. I find out on my birthday that one of my good friends who, I had taught this guy jiu-jitsu at West Point. I helped him pass our combatives class. Like, we hung out all the time. Was killed. My reaction, it ruined my birthday. Like, I did nothing. I had just gotten, off a mission and was like chilling. I was on a deployment at the time, and thankfully I had that time off because you're just exhausted, you're spent. Like, you don't know how to respond. And so there are these, death is a part of life. We're all going to die one day, but there are different types of deaths, and we all respond or we all mourn in different ways. And so I think it's important to be respectful and empathetic of each and every individual in the way that they're mourning someone. I mean, I'm sure like Felipe Pena didn't expect to wake up to news of one of his best friends not just dying. It wasn't like a premature death due to a heart attack, but being basically executed in a club at 1:57 in the morning in Sao Paulo. And so I think, when you look at the extension of the impact and kind of what that's uncovered in the jiu-jitsu community as a whole, like, this is something that should be unifying us and bringing us together in a time of mourning. And people are using it as a way to divide or to kind of argue over, well, oh, he quit, oh, he's really not that good, this and that. It's like, who matters? One of our friends, one of the great ambassadors of jiu-jitsu was snuffed out, was taken away from this world way too early, and his friends and family are feeling that. And so give them that time. And so hopefully, as things kind of progress, that people come together, fight for justice for them. But let's see, IBJJF just postponed this upcoming tournament on the 12th, thankfully, but